Hey folks, Quilly here, and some of you may be wondering, hey Quill, why aren't you making quite as many YouTube videos as you used to? Last time this happened, you were writing a novel with some vampires in it. Are you writing another vampire novel? Well, I mean, yes, I am, but the thing that's been drawing my attention more lately is a little bit of a sci-fi game. So for those of you who are Twitch subscribers or YouTube members or Patreon supporters and have access to Discord, may have seen me posting some screenshots over the last couple of months, maybe a little bit longer actually at this point, probably 3 months or so, of a little game I've been working on that originally started as a web game actually, because I like web games. I like that you don't have to install them. You just point your browser somewhere. You don't have to worry about who's hosting things. Oh, by the way, this is a fully multiplayer game. You don't have to worry about that. You don't have to worry about firewalls or NAT issues or different things. But then I decided to move from a pure web game to this is actually a Godot engine game at this point, so that you can run it on your own. So you can play entirely offline. You can self-host things for your friends. There's still going to be the support for dedicated servers as well. But the idea here is that, well, could you imagine spending money on a game and then having the game company decide, you know what? I don't want to run these servers anymore, so I'm going to shut down the game and you can't play the game anymore. Luckily, no game company would ever do that. But being cognizant of that, I thought, well, you know what? How about I make this a standalone game? Obviously, still multiplayer first, because the whole thing is I wanted this to be a multiplayer game. The original inspiration was, could I make a simpler 2D version of EVE Online with sort of pure Newtonian physics, which is what is going on in this game. All the ships move in a Newtonian way. All the planets and all the orbital bodies over here use Keplerian motion to calculate everything. Everything is as realistic as it can be, with the exception, your ships do have constant thrust, which is sort of like in The Expanse, for example, right? The ships all have constant thrust in there, which makes the math easier, but it also leads to more intuitive gameplay. It's a lot easier to figure out how things are supposed to work with that. So yeah, that was the original inspiration, was sort of EVE Online, and then over time it became more and more sort of cooperative, and then really the inspiration shifted a lot more to, what about something that's more like Aurora 4X, but with hopefully a more appealing user interface, and also more importantly was multiplayer. Also very inspired by Sundog: A Frozen Legacy, which is one of my favorite games of all time. By the way, if you don't like my coffee and tobacco retro futurism look, would you prefer Space Blue? Or maybe you want to go really old school feeling with the old IBM font and a CRT green, because it's not that hard to ship multiple themes, especially when you're working in Godot, and so maybe that's something that's there. Am I spending too much time obsessing over the user interface? Maybe. But would you expect anything else from me? Come on. Let's be serious here. This is me we're talking about. So yeah, we can explore the solar system. This is going to be a game about expanding, working together, a little bit inspired, not in terms of gameplay, but in terms of multiplayer sort of philosophy. It's a little bit inspired by Factorio, where all the players are collectively working towards some common goal. But other than that, there's no, everyone in Factorio, you have your own inventory, right? Just like here, I have my own cargo bay. I have my own personal wallet with this, with this character, with this player over here. But when you build something on Earth, it's there for everyone. When you research technology, it's unlocked for everyone. And your goal is to expand humanity, because we start off with a colony on Earth and probably a colony on the moon, on Luna over here. Early on, you're probably going to make most of your money ferrying colonists from Earth to the moon, bringing organics from Earth to the moon, and then the moon is going to be setting up some mines, and we'll bring back some resources to Earth, which at this point has been severely depleted. So we are desperately needing to go and get resources from other orbital bodies in the solar system, and later on, outside the solar system. Again, just like Aurora 4X, and just like Sundog: The Frozen Legacy, you're going to be able to jump from one system to another. I've just arrived at an asteroid. Let's go over to the prospecting tab over here. This screen is pretty new. You can see that graphic is a little whack, but let's give this asteroid a scan. There we go. Ooh, we got titanium on this one. So this is an S-type asteroid. If I switch to long-range mode, I have previously scanned Desiderata over here. That was a C-type asteroid, which had more carbon. This information, as soon as one player scans an asteroid, it is shared with all players. I can take another look. I could take a look at Victoria over here. So it's an L-type. It's got 3 minerals, but I don't know what it is because they haven't been scanned. Ooh, Sophana is a C-type. It's only got 2 minerals there, but let's go back to local, and let's say, hey, I would like to mine this titanium. So I've got this little mini game that's put in here where what you do is is you tune to a nice high amount of the mineral you're targeting, but then you tune to try to reduce how many other minerals might be in the way, because it sort of wastes some of your mining over here. So we're gonna burn off a lot of minerals. Sometimes you lose your lock, so you have to rescan it. The mining here is very accelerated for testing. You're not actually going to use your lock that quickly, nor are you going to mine quite as quickly as I have here. This is going to fill up. Well, I was going to say fill up pretty quickly, but a bunch of my my minerals are being wasted over here. I lost my lock again. I have it as a really high percentage chance right now to make sure that it happens. I don't even know if I'm going to have that mechanic in there, but it was interesting to sort of play around with. We've got a little communications log over here, which is going to include things like docking requests and things if we get there. Lots of different ways to interact with the user interface as well. You know, would you prefer to just right click on your target? Heck, you can even go and check Luna here, because it is close enough that Luna has collapsed down onto Earth. If we zoom in, then it's not in the, well, I have to click on Earth to center my camera though. You see that it's not in there, and then it could go to Luna. So you could do it that way, or I could do it by right clicking over here, or by selecting it, either by clicking on it in the list or clicking on it in the world. Then you could use these sort of, so I've got these buttons here. They're a little too wide over here. They're too stretched. This is the sort of vibe I'm looking at. I like retro futurism. I like cassette futurism a lot, which is why I've got this sort of like these retro looks. And these buttons are very inspired by like the sort of like 1980s Boeing cockpit and thing. Well, I mean, even through to today actually, but that's sort of the idea there. Just kind of like these knobs over here. I really like that a lot. And I'm probably going to be making use of this more and more as we move forward. But yeah, I should go and dock. I like this too, right? We're in rendezvous mode, but dock is armed. We'll get there. Real-time travel times with a turnover in the middle, because it's all pure Newtonian physics. You know, it's not the fastest paced of games, but I think that's kind of the right vibe. You know, while that's going on, maybe there's other things you can check. We can double check our cargo bay. Yep, we've got all this titanium. That's great. We'll see if we can bring it to Earth. Well, and we'll sell it so that we personally make some money. But the real reason we're bringing it to Earth is because Earth will then be able to use those materials to construct new buildings and infrastructure, and that's going to be really very important. Again, the idea here is that collectively, the players are trying to move humanity forward. One of the big aspects will be if you can sustain a high population, then you will be able to run lots of science labs on your various settlements, and then that will lead to more technologies, which will push you through the tech tree that much further. That's really going to be the impetus, right? Just like anything else. And a lot of things early on are going to be manual, like manually going out to an asteroid, manually mining it, manually bringing it back. But hopefully, as we unlock more and more things, that's going to unlock more and more automations, little automated mines, NPC mining ships, and so on and so forth. Just like, you know, when you're kind of playing Factorio, right? At the start, it's all very manual, but over time, it becomes more and more automated. If we go to trade here, and I flip to my mineral hold, then I can go and sell the titanium, which is a nice high price, plus 63%. There you go, 353,000 credits if I sell off all my titanium. Great. If this was a ship that had a passenger hold, I could pick up some of the colonists on their way to Luna. Earth is wildly overpopulated. This screen here, this is like, this is one of the old user interfaces here, where it was just kind of windowed based. I still kind of like this. I think that looks kind of spiffy-doo. But this has got to be converted into my new, my sort of tabbed look. I don't love the building screen here. I think I'm going to redo it. I'm not sure exactly how yet, but you can see the user interface is very much in evolution. But yeah, Earth has way more population than it can sustain due to a variety of reasons. The atmosphere is a little bit polluted. We've got some, climate change has happened, so the temperature factor is all out of whack. The biggest thing, though, is we are low on governance. The reason being that our population services here is being insufficiently satisfied, so it's not producing as much administration, or I call it administration for now. Well, this used to be called an administration center. This might just be called, like, I don't know, pop satisfaction or something. I don't know what. But we are short on household goods, so we're not generating all the population services that we could, and that is impeding, that is lowering the population capacity, right? So there's a little bit, people are very unhappy, birth rates are lower, death rates are higher, and there's a lot of emigration. People are anxious to get to the moon because the moon also has higher wages. The wages here are currently sitting at 54 credits per worker, whereas on the moon, which has very few colonists at all right here, let's just do a quick little dock. Very few colonists at all on the moon, and they do have a few buildings. So yeah, they have a critical shortage of workers. 700 jobs, they only have 50 workers available, and so they are paying premium wages and are really looking for a lot of people in here. No one is looking to leave the moon right now. Later on, when we get multiple different colonies going on, the passenger terminal screen is probably going to be a lot more varied. But yeah, it doesn't matter right now because the ship that I'm running doesn't have a passenger space. The default starter ship does have passenger ship space, but I'm running a mining ship right now to be testing that sort of thing. But yeah, so the early game with the starter ship is going to be a lot of taking colonists from Earth, dropping them off on the moon, making good money doing that, while also alleviating some of the population stress that's on Earth by helping to bring people off of Earth and supplying population to the moon where you desperately need it. The moon's also going to need regular shipments of organics because it doesn't have its own farm set up at this point. But the moon does have, the minerals deposits are not, they're just hard-coded and fixed. But the idea is the moon will have some resources that we can then ship back to the Earth. And if nothing else, it's just going to have some extra living space, and we could set up some research labs and things there with some solar panels and sort of hopefully get to the point where it's self-sustaining, use the first levels of tech to maybe unlock hydroponic domes and things like that, so that the moon can be more or less self-sustaining while it passively generates some extra science. And then eventually we unlock the ability to make new colony starter kits, I suppose. I don't know what I'm going to call them yet, so that we can go and colonize Mars, so we can colonize Ceres, which of course Ceres is not an asteroid. Ceres is a dwarf planet, just like Eris. Of course, Pluto's somewhere out there. Here, if I actually went to there we go, planets without a dock in there. There we go. There's Pluto's out there. We've got Makemake and Haumea as another planet. It is really far out there. I can't even see the rest of the solar system. There you go. There you go. Well, out there, quite far away. How long would it take me to get there? It would take me 5 minutes and 38 seconds of real time just to do a flyby, or 7 minutes and 25 seconds to reach there in real time and dock right now. Of course, the idea is you're going to get better and better drives. That is impractical. I mean, some players will do that. I mean, there's players in Elite Dangerous who fly out to, I can't remember what it is. It's somewhere in the Sol system in Elite Dangerous that is like, it takes like 2 hours to fly out to. It might be Pluto, or it might be like Europa Station or something like that. And you can buy like a souvenir mug when you're there, and some people do it, but it's all real time. But you know, because this is real Newtonian physics, so it can take you a while to get places. So the idea being, originally, like to start off with the starter ship, you're really going to be focused almost entirely around Earth and Luna and doing that. And then maybe, okay, your first major thing is we need to build a building on Earth, and it needs a bunch more raw resources than we have access to. I will make one long, slow, annoying trip out to an asteroid, come back with a full cargo hold, sell it on Earth, and provide Earth with those resources, and then use those resources to build, say, a shipyard where I can redesign my ship, or just build a better ship, or something of that nature, which will have a much better engine. I guess that's it. First, we would need to tech up the better engine tech, and then build that initial shipyard, right? So you're doing the two. You're having to get the research to the better engine tech. You're having to get the resources to be able to build a shipyard, and then you build a shipyard with a ship that's got a better engine, and then you can expand your reach a little bit more. You can harvest from some more asteroids, and at some point stop that from being manual, because what you're going to want to do is drop some auto mines on these things, and you're going to want to go and recruit some NPC ships that will go and transport things. And so as you move forward, things get more and more automated, and your concern becomes more, okay, I'm going to go and focus on colonizing Mars and bringing some key shipments there. And then once that's set up, okay, I'm going to be going for some of the moons of Jupiter. And then after that, I'm going to be checking out some of the jump points where I can go to jump to another star system. And oh my God, what do you mean it's full of evil aliens? Ah! Anyway, that's the kind of game loop. Multiplayer from the start. The intention is to play this with all my friends, like maybe some of you people. Give me 5 or 10 years. It's gonna be a while. It's gonna be a while. Let's not pretend that this is a small game, but I don't know. Hopefully, it's gonna be cool. The graphics obviously are going to be. It's gonna take a certain type of player to want to play this. But I couldn't possibly make any other kind of game than this, right? I mean, come on. It's me. I love the retro futurist aesthetics. I like that this looks like a radar plot. By the way, the game runs on 1 Hz tick, just like EVE Online, by the way. EVE Online runs on a one tick per second system. And here you can see it with the ship movement. You can quite clearly see it's 1 per tick. Because the way the core package is set up in here, the client has access to all the game logic. The client cannot in any way affect any change because the game data is all locked within server lib, which the client cannot access, but the client has access to all the simulation code, which means it can run any simulations. The pathfinding over here, the navigation is all done pure client side, not server side, for example. But we could also easily go and interpolate the movement over here to make smooth motion. Like, we have the full prediction, we know the full path. I can make smooth motion. It would be like 2 lines of code, but I kind of like the radar plot kind of vibe where it's just updating like once per ping, like I put a little radar sweep or something. I mean, maybe it doesn't make as much sense for your own ship not to move in real time, whereas the other ships do, but it kind of works. And mostly I have it this way right now for testing, so I have an exact representation of what's happening, right? There's a one-to-one representation of what's happening on the server versus the client by having this. Whereas I've had a little bit of prediction, occasionally there might be some sort of visual disparity that would confuse me and hide a bug. But honestly, I think it's kind of a vibe that I kind of like. So yeah, lots of unfinished UI stuff. And like these mechanics over here, halt, shields, power, heat, that doesn't exist. You'll see fuel doesn't really go down. None of these buttons here are wired to anything, and their labels don't even mean anything. Like these navigation commands here won't even be here. We've got this sort of context action. What I like is that you can navigate even when you're on one of these other screens, right? I can be doing some long range scans and checking out some stuff, but then at the same time, it can be like, oh, you know what? Let's can you, well, not to Earth, we're already there. Here, send me to Mercury, and I can watch, right? I can see, okay, so this is our first burn phase here, and then I've got turnover in 30 seconds, and I got my secondary burn phase over there. Cool, and then my little ETA bar down here. I can keep track of that while I'm futzing around in my cargo bay and managing my cargo, because why not, right? Anyway, I kind of dig that. So the user interface is constantly evolving. Again, if you are a Twitch subscriber, YouTube member, or Patreon supporter, and you have access to the Discord, go to the programming channel on the Discord and scroll back and see the evolution of the screenshots along the way. And probably look there for a lot more screenshots going forward as well. Anyway, I just want to let you guys know what I've been working on and what's been occupying a little bit of my time. Hopefully it's something that turns out to be really cool, that everyone appreciates, and is worth having a reduced video count over on the UbTubs, which hurts my heart. But also, I want to make a cool space game. Thanks for watching. See you next time. Bye-bye.